The conflict between Iran, Israel, and the United States did not appear suddenly. It developed after many years of political tension, military rivalry, and ideological conflict in the Middle East. Israel has long viewed Iran as one of its greatest security threats, mainly because of Iran's support for armed groups in the region and its nuclear ambitions. On the other hand, Iran has repeatedly criticized Israel's policies in the region and has supported groups that oppose Israeli influence. The United States, as Israel's strongest ally, has also had a long history of disputes with Iran, including sanctions, military confrontations, and disagreements over Iran's nuclear program. Over time, these tensions created a fragile environment, where even a small military action could escalate into a larger confrontation. When direct military strikes began, years of mistrust and hostility quickly transformed into open conflict. The situation intensified rapidly, because each side believed it was acting in defense of its national security and strategic interests. One of the major reasons this war began was the fear surrounding Iran's nuclear program. Israel has repeatedly warned that Iran could develop nuclear weapons, which it considers an existential threat to its survival. Iranian leaders, however, have consistently argued that their nuclear activities are for peaceful purposes, such as energy production and scientific development. Despite these claims, many Western countries remain skeptical. The United States has imposed heavy sanctions on Iran for years, aiming to pressure the country into limiting its nuclear capabilities. Tensions escalated further when intelligence reports and military assessments suggested that Iran's nuclear infrastructure was becoming more advanced. This created a situation where Israel and its allies believed they needed to act before Iran reached a level of power that could change the balance of the region. As a result, preventive strikes and military responses began to unfold, turning diplomatic disputes into direct confrontation. Another factor that fueled the conflict was the ongoing struggle for influence in the Middle East. Iran has spent decades building alliances and supporting groups across the region, including organizations in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Yemen. Through these connections, Iran has attempted to expand its political and military influence. Israel and the United States see this expansion as a strategic threat that could destabilize neighboring countries and weaken their own alliances. Israel fears being surrounded by groups that are hostile toward it, while the United States wants to maintain its influence and security partnerships in the region. These competing interests created a complex geopolitical rivalry. When military action started, they were not only about immediate security concerns but also about shaping the future balance of power in the Middle East. Each side wanted to ensure that its influence would remain strong while preventing its rivals from gaining dominance. In terms of benefits, different sides believed they could gain strategic advantages from the conflict. Israel aimed to weaken Iran's military infrastructure and slow down its nuclear development, believing that doing so would improve its long-term security. The United States saw the conflict as an opportunity to reinforce its alliances and demonstrate its military strength in the region. Iran, meanwhile, portrayed the confrontation as a struggle against foreign pressure and used it to strengthen national unity and regional support among its allies. In wars like this, the perceived benefits are often linked to security, political influence, and regional dominance rather than simple territorial gains. However, the reality is that war rarely produces clear winners. While leaders may hope to gain strategic advantages, the human, economic, and political costs can outweigh the expected benefits for all sides involved. The consequences of this conflict could be significant, not only for the countries directly involved but also for the entire world. The Middle East is a region that plays a crucial role in global energy supplies, especially oil and gas. Any major war in this area can disrupt shipping routes, damage infrastructure, and create instability in global markets. If the conflict expands to include more countries or regional groups, it could trigger a broader crisis, affecting international trade and economic stability. In addition, prolonged fighting could lead to humanitarian problems such as civilian casualties, displacement of populations, and destruction of cities and infrastructure. History has shown that wars in the Middle East often have long-lasting effects that extend far beyond the battlefield. Because of this, many international organizations and governments usually push for diplomacy and negotiation to prevent further escalation. The final outcome of this war is still uncertain and could develop in several different ways. In one scenario, international pressure and negotiations might eventually lead to a ceasefire or peace agreement, reducing the immediate threat of further violence. In another scenario, the conflict could expand if additional countries or regional groups become involved, turning it into a larger regional war. Much will depend on political decisions, diplomatic efforts, and the willingness of leaders to seek compromise. What is clear is that wars of this scale rarely end quickly or simply. Even after the fighting stops, rebuilding trust, repairing infrastructure, and stabilizing the region can take many years. Ultimately, the true cost of such conflicts is measured not only in military outcomes but also in the impact on ordinary people, whose lives are deeply affected by instability and violence.